It is 5:38 a.m. as I'm recording this video, just a few hours after this clip was originally shared, and I wanted to analyze this hand between Jungleman and Andy because I think it's kind of interesting. It actually brings up quite a few points that I think get massively overlooked when people watch these kind of live streams. So let's fire into it. So unfortunately I was only able to find this clip on Twitter because again it just happened a couple hours ago, wasn't even on YouTube yet, so I'm going to fire it up through Twitter or X and put on the headphones so I can hear it. And let's rock into it. Alright, so the game format is 100, 200, 400 with a 200 big blind ante. Jungleman is in the big. Opens to 6k total with king queen off, totally standard. Andy 3-bets next to act. To 14.6 with kings, totally standard.
Andy with kings.
And Jungleman makes the call.
Blind versus
again,
blind here.
Totally standard.
Already a big pot brewing with the straddle on.
Flop is kind of that nightmare flop for Jungleman. Queen high,
this is gonna get
rainbow.
So the $800 straddles on.
Jungle checks.
3-bet top blind,
12.
blind, and Jungleman flops top pair. It's gonna be a wide configuration.
And
here.
let's just pause here and run this through a solver real quick. So pulling up GTO Plus, plugged in the range for Jungleman and also for Andy, and if you're like, where the heck are these ranges coming from? I think the best analog, and mind you it's not exactly perfect because this is a specialized format, I think would probably be the new Deep 6 Max solve from Red Chip over in the GTO Ranges app. I used the small blind versus big blind because I think as an analog for this particular game that's probably just fine, and I think these ranges are probably in the right ballpark overall. So let's go ahead and build the tree. Start by throwing in the board of Queen of Diamonds, 9 of Spades, 6 of Hearts. Go over to the tree itself. Starting pot, what do we got? Let's just call it 30 in the middle. Let's call it 159 back. Let's just skip rake for the moment. Let's do an advanced build on it. And let's just do normal stuff. I think we do have to keep donking in, so let's just take 40 and 80, say check raise to 50 and 100. Yeah, we'll do the same thing for this, same thing for this, and we'll do the same thing for the river as well, why not? And 50, 100, and then if we go over to Andy, let's use a couple different things. Let's say out of position has checked. Let's say there's a 33% bet and a 75 and a 150, and we use similar settings for most of these. We're going to take 40, 80, and 130, and I'll do this similar on the river for 50, 100, and 175. Perfect. So 2.3 gigs on the overall size. Let's build that tree out. Perfect. Let's run that solve. And I'll see you back when this is done. Alright, 105 seconds later, we're all done with this. Save the file up and let's start plugging through it. And if you're looking at that overall tree and you're like, that is way too many bet sizing options, no problem. It is a little complex, but I like to start with a nice wide tree and then kind of narrow in from there if I want to do further analysis. But you notice that the solver likes jungle checking. Yep, totally standard. A pretty large, almost 100% of the time. If we look at where Pocket Kings is for Andy, that's a pure bet, just a mix between the different sizes, between betting, roughly 1/3 and roughly 2/3 pot. And if we look at the smaller sizing and look at where King Queen is for jungle, we notice it is a pure continue. It's a mix between calling and going for a raise in this situation, and the raise would be the smaller size given. So yeah, totally standard to continue. Would not be shocked to see that from jungle. Let's hit play and see if that's exactly what happens. So, yep, jungle doesn't take too long between throwing in the
already
call.
54,000 going to the turn, and these guys start the hand deep. About 175K.
Turn is the 5 of hearts. Check by jungle.
5 of hearts on the turn. 7-8 does get there, but still very clean value bet for kings here. And big bet for Andy.
35,000.
Andy fires 35,000. And let's take a quick pause and see what the solver would do at this point. So again, turn card is the 5 of hearts. Fire that through, jungle checks, and again, solver is definitely in checking land pretty much always. If we look over at Andy with pocket kings, definitely a bet. Chooses the 40 size 100% of the time, so never a check from Andy's position. So after a fire, let's see what the solver would do with king queen, and it looks like a 100% call with king queen off. So again, nothing incredibly shocking so far. It would be very weird if jungle decided to fold here. Let's see if he decides to go for the call or the raise. So we hit play and
he makes the call.
doesn't take too long
We
before
can see a monster
calling.
pot here. 124K already in there going to the river. 112K effective behind.
Roughly 1 SPR going into the river. There was an 8 putting
River
up the
is
4
an
straight.
Brings out a one-liner to a 7. Jack 10 does get there. This may slow things down.
Check by jungle.
Wouldn't be surprised.
And Andy settles on
55,000 to bet.
a $55,000
Just
bet.
under half pot.
So roughly half pot. So this is an interesting one when the texture gets very, very specific. So again, let's see what the solver would do in this spot. So when the river comes in, the 8 of clubs. Again, large chunk of checks coming from the solver for jungle. If we look at the bets for Andy, we notice that kings is almost exactly a check, like 100% of the time, except for a very little bit of exactly king spades, king of clubs getting fired here a very, very small amount of the time. However, the size, of course, is much, much larger. The main option that the solver was taking was the all-in, was not taking a smaller option, and I think it was given the option to, right? How much is the pot? 130. It was given an option for half pot. It didn't take it. So anyway, that's where we are in terms of the solver. So at this point, we are out of solver land, right? Unless Andy specifically has exactly that combo, and he does not. This is going to be a check back 100% of the time, according to the solver with the exact combo that Andy has. But let's talk about it from this point of view, because we're well outside of solver land in this situation, but the exploitative analysis is just as important and helpful. And I think almost all the exploitative analysis becomes extremely clear when you listen to Jungleman talk out his thought process on this river facing this bet, which means probably not going to be a check raise coming anytime soon, but let's listen in and see what Jungleman's talking about here. So let's just hit play.
If you're Jungleman, you got to kind of think, what do I beat here? Jack 10 gets there, 7-8 gets there.
What the fuck do you have?
Yep.
A set of
really?
9? What? Is straight somehow? I don't know what the fuck you have. I am not of the belief that you bet aces here.
Fair. Which is exactly the kind of thought that can go into Andy making this
Jungleman
exact
not
kind of
thinking that
bet.
Andy would go
But
thinly here.
I
Right,
don't really
aces,
think you're
kings
bluffing too.
function in the same hand.
So what the fuck do you have? Maybe you have 9s? That makes sense. Maybe you have... No, I don't think you have Jack 10 suited. There's 4 combos of that. I don't know, I'm such a stupid station. I don't think you have to upset. I'm calling bullshit on that. I think maybe you have a straight.
Good.
Yeah. I thought you had it until this card. I mean, I do not believe that. I just don't think you fucking. Yeah, what the fuck do you have, dude? What do you fucking have? You have 5, 6 suited or something? Maybe you have do 7 offsuit. I don't know.
Worked out.
It doesn't feel like you're bluffing. It's really weird. Alright,
Spent way too much money at that store. But honestly, like,
so annoying.
Like it
Intuition is correct.
I thought there was a real high chance you're bluffing pre-flop.
It's incentivized.
You might have
me
a
to
straight
spend more
somehow.
money.
I don't think. Yeah, maybe you have Jack 10, I guess. I don't know.
What was the last time you went here?
Really small size.
Yeah.
I guess you could bluff. I don't know.
Not just through, like after.
This I don't know. What the fuck do you have?
Really? You can go, man. You would like.
I do not think you have aces.
There's good games there as well.
Well, what do you got the tournament? Maybe you have like King Jack or something? I don't know.
I need a clock.
It's like the biggest pot of the day.
Someone just called clock?
I don't understand what you have, man. You have like 3. No. You don't
Starting
have
now,
3
1
8.
minute.
What the fuck do you have? Doesn't feel like he's bluffing though.
Who called clock? This is a big pot.
He's bluffing 70k and 120k and 125k in this spot. I don't understand your hand. You could have like Jack 10 of hearts, I guess.
You could all have all Jack 10s.
I think you maybe have it in some strange way, but I don't know what way that is.
He's correct. His intuition is right.
I think no.
And you can have a lot of weird two-pair
if you
too.
have 2 9s, I don't think so. Maybe 2 9s. That makes sense. Whatever, man. Take my money.
Well, kings.
Really? I have a king. You thought kings is...
That's why I think he wasn't saying.
Okay.
I think that's why Jungleman kept saying he could have aces, or doesn't think he has aces, just because Jungleman blocks the pocket king, so I don't think he was just kind of discounting that. Same concept with top set when he's talking out his thought process. But yeah, this is an interesting one, and I think it works simply because Andy knows that Jungle kind of looks like he has a lot of like one pair kind of hands, and a lot of that is probably going to be pinned at exactly like Queen X, maybe 9X with like a 10-9 or something like that, pocket jacks, pocket 10s, and maybe he can go a little bit thinner. Size is really interesting, right? Shoving on the river I think makes a decent chunk of sense because it can look really bluffy, and this bet just looks very, very interesting. So I really appreciate Jungleman actually talking out his entire thought process. I think he's being pretty legitimate and candid with it. I don't know who the hell called clock, being that this is, like you said, one of the biggest pots of the night so far, but this is an interesting one. I'm curious to hear what you guys think. Would you make this call from Jungleman's position? But more importantly, would you make the bet with pocket kings from Andy's position here? And just in case you're interested to see what the solver would do in this spot, even though we are technically out of solver land, had Andy bet with the GTO range on the river, then Jungle should be calling with king queen off about 38% of the time and check folding the other 62% of the time, again with all of the king queen off combos. But I guess I can finally take my headphones on and let's continue talking about this, because I think this is actually kind of important to talk about when it comes to these big live streams. I know they are extremely interesting, they're engaging, the pot sizes are huge, but by the same token, I think it's really important to understand that if you are trying to learn the game of poker, this is it 100% is not the way to go about it. These things, these high-stakes streams should be looked at as entertainment first and foremost. Yes, you can do some sort of analysis on them later, but there's a couple of major things that you need to keep in mind. First and foremost is that a lot of these game formats for the high-stakes streams are game formats that you're not going to run into. Do you play with a third blind? Do you play with a BBA? Do you play with weird straddles on regularly? Like, if not, the game itself isn't really going to apply to what you play, and as such isn't going to be as useful. Number two is that these guys play with each other more often than you probably realize. So because of that, they have history and information and reads that you really aren't going to be privy to very often. So a play might not make any ding-dang sense unless you have that history and context, in which case it looks great, but it doesn't really make any sense and it might not be a huge learning opportunity for you. So again, if you're trying to learn poker, this is not the way to go about it. Yes, the kind of analysis we did here can be useful and helpful, but again, is it exactly perfect for you in your game? Are your opponents playing really, really high level and trying to mimic a solver? Probably not. So because of that, don't go too far into these kind of streams for anything other than entertainment. Again, very, very entertaining, but if you're looking for learning and actual strategy building, this is not the way to go about that. But anyway, I think that's a good stopping point for this one. Luckily, I was up early enough to be able to analyze this hand and see it very, very quickly. Woke up at like 2 this morning, which I usually wake up at 3:30, so 2 a.m. was nice because this was posted at 2:08 a.m. So cool. Glad I could be hopefully one of the first people to review it. I'll get this video out as soon as possible, and again, your feedback on this format would be massively, massively appreciated, both on the actual hand itself, on the actual strategy itself, getting the GTO solver out, and if you even like this kind of stuff in the first place, or if I should just stick to the normal stuff on this channel. And of course, if you're new here, a like and sub would be massively, massively appreciated. Been awesome hanging out today. Thank you so much, and I will see you back shortly with a brand new video. In the meantime, good luck out there, and happy grinding.